All right, y'all. So let's talk a little bit about some we call our org the SDR, BDR, ADR. You know, there's a million XDRs. We call them business development reps here, so BDRs. And what we wanted to do was solve a problem. When I got in here, we have a very good functioning BDR function. If you want to go to the next slide, Martha. Um, it was built on a bunch of reps and managers doing an ungodly amount of hard and awesome work to deliver really above average results. But when we started to dig in, and what the leaders told me when I got here is like, Mark, like we're spending like all this time in all these different tools trying to figure out just what to do. And what that leads to is it leads to people thinking in different ways. And when people think in different ways, it leads to branching workflows. And the next thing you know is you have multiple reps that should be doing the same job, but are doing it all slightly differently. And now when we go to put a fix in, a lot of the times that fix doesn't have the impact that we need. And so we lose control of the business, which is as our job as of leaders is not to just know our business, is to control it. So additionally, like all their attention kind of got spread across. Like some people were LinkedIn experts, some people were Zoom info experts, some people were outreach experts, some people were experts with AI. And like we needed to create like a way to for someone to level up in the right way in all of those. So what we did is, if you go to the next slide, is we decided that we needed to eliminate manual prospecting as much as we could. And my current VP of Biz Dev, his name is Jonathan Mayer. He is an unbelievably intelligent, long time BD executive. And the way that he phrases it, I really, really love, excuse me, is he said there's five key decisions that a BDR or SDR makes. Decision one is, can I pick the right account? Decision two is, can I pick the right persona in that account to approach? Three is, can I pick the right messaging to appeal to that persona? The fourth is, can I pick the right cadence or the series of steps over time that I want that message to be broadcast out with? And four is, can I pick the right CTA? Is what is the offer, the thing that's going to cause them to respond? If you have a BDR that's really good at all five of those decisions, you'll get really good performance. But most BDRs struggle to make all those five decisions well consistently. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to automate that delivery of some of those decisions using first and third party intent signals so that we could drive more qualified pipeline per rep faster and really make sure that we were fueling our AEs pipelines, because we have great AEs here with higher quality deals at a higher volume. So let's look a little bit about how that kind of orchestration of these different decisions comes into play. So what we've done is we've relieved reps of three of the decisions. They no longer pick the account. They no longer pick the persona, and they no longer pick the messaging. Actually, they no longer pick the cadence or the CTA, but we give them a little bit of control over that. What I mean by that is we have data and signals that's coming from our CRM, first party signals that we own about lost opportunities, prior conversations, third party signals like job postings or champions that are moving between companies. We have AI research that we're doing and injecting into the CRM for reps to have. And then we obviously have all of our account and contact data. When we have those three things together, that gives us kind of our data and signals package. We need to move that over into an AI brain that can look at that. Now, why do you need an AI brain? It's pretty simple. I think in the last decade, from when I started doing all the outbound work that resulted in Outreach's success, I was the first employee there. I led sales to $250 million. It was just me and the four co-founders to start. I built every process. A lot of the product was built on the processes that I was installing. And what happened is we took all those learnings and we kind of started to decide, all right, in the beginning, it just wasn't that much stuff. You didn't need to keep track of so many things. You really just needed to be disciplined and have good A/B testing. And if you did that, you could typically drive results as long as your reps were doing the tasks they were assigned. As we've gone over the last 10 years, we've become so much more sophisticated with what we need to do to get results that I don't think the human brain is capable of triangulating. That's not even the right word. I don't know what a 100-sided geometric figure is, but whatever that is, uh, centrosizing, I don't know. But they have to take all these things and use it to point to an action that should happen. It's too many variables for the human mind to comprehend, weight, score, figure out, keep track of, be aware of, factor in. And because of that, that's where we decided to put in an AI brain to relieve our reps from the responsibility of doing something that's impossible, which just creates further frustration. And when you're in the role of BDR, it's not a hard job. It's just a job filled with a lot of rejection. And rejection is one of those straws on the camel's back, along with, oh my gosh, it's so complicated and there's so many things to keep track of that just causes people to be demoralized and not be successful. So we wanted to make it a little more simple. So the AI brain does that. It looks at all of the information about an account that we have, the types of contacts, how many do we have, how often we've talked to them, have they been in opportunities before, what is the content of some of those conversations, all of that internal signal, and then the external stuff, who's looking for this, who has business initiatives that they've announced around that, those, who's been on our website, all of that kind of stuff. It all gets put into UserGems, our outbound brain, and it gets weighted and scored. And we end up with like an idea of how interested that person is in a conversation. In other words, how convertible they are. And, our job is to convert cold people into warm conversations and then into qualified pipeline. So understanding the temperature of folks before you reach out is really good. So we now have all of that, and then we can automatically build a list, and then we pull that prioritized list into Outreach, and then Outreach has sequences that UserGems then fills with all of the content that we need, so the reps don't have to figure out the messaging or how to combine stuff. We have like simple rules, like we call it signal stacking. So in order to get to a level where you're automatically put into a sequence for a rep, you have to have a high score. That score only happens when you stack together a small amount of very high intent signals or a lot of low intent signals or a combination of those. Once it gets to that level, it gets put into the sequence. So let's say that you end up with a lot of signals. Well, we have rules, for example, that say you can only use 2 of those signals in a message. So we're not trying to create like this 37-point message of all the reasons that we should have reached out in that first email. A sequence, a lot of people have forgotten this and don't understand this correctly, which is um, the the sequence is designed to mimic what an ad does. And ads, the way they work is they work with a certain amount of frequency over a short time period in order to get a person to feel familiar with something. If I see Nike swooshes around all the time, I become familiar with it. If somebody wanted to sell me Nike, subconsciously, I am more open to talking to them because I'm familiar with the swooshes versus if I've never seen a swoosh before, my lizard brain kicks in, my fight or flight instinct activates, and I have to decide within 3 to 7 seconds biologically whether I want to be attracted to or repelled away from this thing. And that's a very difficult situation to put buyers into when we as sellers don't want to do that. So that's where we create those signals. We then use the signals in the messaging that is built, the list is built on all that to do that. And then, we use our sequencer outreach to send out the messages, our dialer to do the phone calls, and a couple other things to make sure that reps stay on track. So if you go to the next slide, here's 6 signals we use right now. Now, again, I wouldn't say any of this is crazy. I wouldn't say this is groundbreaking. I'd say what it is, though, is super consistent and stacked and weighted and scored. We do not do a job change play. We do not do a website visitor play. We use those as signals to understand that when working together, someone is more likely, therefore higher scored to go after. And then we use those signals in the messaging in a combined way. if you see a job change and somebody on the website, you can write a much more convincing message than just the job change that you hammer them with over several emails and cold calls. When you create this stacked approach, you have multiple areas of conversation, and you can find the one that is most likely to help them convert by just staying consistent, doing the messaging, and making sure that you use the signals. Um, Job changes are, obviously an old hat way of doing it. Website visitors, a little bit newer, not that great. Event engagement is one that we're really proud of. Like, we can see who's come to events. That's a higher weighted signal that gives us a lot of intent. We use closed loss revival, something that back in the day was always the best practice, but hard to enforce. Now we have like complete enforcement and 100% stuff. We can see if we're trying to rip out a competitor, what kind of signals do we need to look for that? And then again, all of that's put together into this account scoring that helps us understand on several signals inside of that whether someone is a good target or not. But I think what's this slide is most about is not the specific signals on the slide. It shows that we have done research and understand which signals activate for us a higher level of conversion. And so, some of these might be similar to yours, but you have to start to understand your business enough and experiment to find the right ones. And unfortunately, outbound is like your grass in the summer. If you don't mow it for a couple weeks, it gets really hard to mow on the third week. You have to stay on top of this stuff, or it starts to get really hard to make it successful. We have constant measurements in place, a lot of early warning detection signals in place that tell us when a signal isn't starting to convert the way that it used to, so we can add in more. And my team is also tasks with adding in 1 to 2 signals every 4 weeks into the brain that we can test and understand should they be there as part of the permanent solution or not. So really cool, but what has this resulted in? So we now have 56% of all of our outbound activity is driven by our outbound brain in UserGems. Nobody does anything anymore except for go to the sequence that's already queued up with the right person, with the right messaging for the right persona in the right account, and with the right CTA that's been tested. All of that stuff is right there. They just need to take a second, be the human in the loop, and make sure that there's nothing off. But 56% of all of our SDR or BDR activity is driven through that. We have over 14,500 people in sequence that is as far as the end of February that are going through this process. And we've reached as many as 80 qualified meetings set in a month just off of this process. And now we have other processes running. We have other inbound things happening. That is an amazingly impactful result on my pipe gen that puts my sales team in a much better position to make sure that they're closing high quality deals. Additionally, if you were to go back and listen to our earnings calls, you'll find out, for example, that also our win rates are up, our cycle time is down, and we're doing a really good job on ACV as well. So, this hasn't resulted in smaller deals, worse performing deals. This isn't noise. This is, forgive the pun, signal. And what we do is we keep doubling down on the signal. So let's look at some of the charts so you can see over time what's happened. We switched to this sometime in November, December-ish. I can't remember the exact date that we turned it on. And you can see what happened is the gray lines show the relative amount of overall activity. It's like, hey, it doesn't matter what the numbers is. It's like, this is the full amount. And then you can see the percentage of our sequences that are now sourced through this process. UserGems was, I would say, a tool for us before we leveraged it in a strategic fashion like this. Is now much more than a tool. It is something that would be almost impossible for us to pull out now. It's so integral to our success. And you can see again, over 50% of all sequences are queued up like this, and how that's grown over time. Now, if you look at the number of sequences started, you can see not only have the percentage of sequences gone up, but the number of sequences that we activate has gone up. That's like stacking good on good. It's like 1 + 1 = 3. We got more going out, and they're providing more information for us so that we could do the increased volume. And then if you go to the next slide, this is the most beautiful part, is the pipeline has also gone up. We haven't sacrificed conversion or quality with the increase of activity. And as many BDR and SDR leaders know, that is a tricky trick to get figured out. Lots of times increased activity leads to decreased overall efficiency. We are seeing increased efficiency because we're going after the right accounts and getting a lot of the decisions that we're wasting time and all of the tool sprawl and everything off of our reps plate as much as we can. Now, obviously, we don't have enough accounts and enough people that are giving us 100% of our activity signals to hit our number, but we can put in other strategic places to fill in the gap. This just takes over half of it, and it's growing all the time off of our plate of having to figure out. So just to recap on the next slide here, we went from about 3 hours of account researching a day almost. I wouldn't say, maybe I can't remember the 3 hours is a week or a day. People sourcing contacts in Lusha or Zoom Info, writing emails, putting people into sequences. 60% of their week was spent on non-selling stuff. Now, because we have signals that are prioritizing accounts, contacts auto-enriching with all the data that they need, the AI writing the first draft of the personalized emails, and then also prospects being put into the right sequences. 80% of our rep time in a recent time study is spent on the top 20% of our highest converting accounts. So unbelievable. And Amanda, I see your comment about Titan-X. We have used Titan-X in the past, and they dramatically increased our call connect rates. We ended up getting most of the numbers that we need. So we're not currently a customer, but they were instrumental to helping us get on the right path. So what are the results of this? A little bit more. We went from sub 2% reply rates to 11 to 16% reply rates in GEM sequences, depending on which play we're running. We've generated well over 100 opportunities in the last 6 months. It only took us 4 days to generate our first opportunity, not meeting, opportunity, once we turn this on. And then a really cool thing for us, since we're a very international business, we were founded in Italy. We still have a lot of our teams are in Italy and other parts of Europe. When we launched GEM's translation ability and started to do regionally specific language emails, our reply rates in 2 weeks went 30x. So that's unbelievably cool stuff from literally quite literally zero effort from our side. Just, hey, yeah, let's do that. So a couple benefits to wrap up is when reps focus on the warmest contacts and they spend most of their time there, you greatly increase your ability to convert and to get really great pipeline in the door. And that has a cascading effect through your AE's performance, your onboarders performance, CS performance. That's got a long tail of benefits. When we combine signals, instead of trying to look to run individual plays for a specific signal, when we combine signals and then run a really great outbound motion with a great CTA and awesome messaging, you get way better scoring and way better results. AI messaging, I actually had a failed startup that was trying to do this. GEM beat me to the punch, I guess. Is if you do messaging right, that's one of the things I love about UserGems. I've always trusted them. The way that they, having come, my startup being in the data space, I learned it a lot. The way that they do their champion trapping, for example, is just different than everybody else. It's just better. And, not to be a brown nose or anything because I'm on their webinar, but I trust them to build better products than everybody else. And they were building a better product than my startup. So I quit using them. I quit my startup and went back to being an operator instead of an entrepreneur. And their messaging converts. AI messaging works when it's sent to the right people in the right way with the right brains behind it. And lastly is listen, no rep wants to sit there and research. I mean, maybe they do so they can avoid a cold call, but that's not productive behavior and not going to help them make more money. We have tools now that can do all of that kind of stuff. Let's just go ahead and do it for them. Let's relieve them of some of the the decisions that they need to make on their journey to figuring out how to get the right people into the calendars of our AEs. But listen, when you combine all this stuff together, you get amazing results, and I think that we are well on our way to some of the best results we've ever had in company history. And thank you.